Hey everyone! Welcome back to Story Hive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let's jump into today's story. My wife cheated on me for 8 years and my mom supported her. I've now abandoned and cut them off. I don't know where to start. It's terrible knowing that my wife doesn't want to live with me anymore. The worst part is she's not giving any reason for it. She doesn't want to move in with me, and my mother is supporting her in this. Let me give you some background. I'm a 51-year-old male. I had to move out from my hometown 13 years ago for work purposes, leaving my wife. The children are now 23 and 21. They both have moved to Houston and are living on their own. 13 or 14 years ago, when the U.S. suffered a great recession due to the housing bubble, our business was one of those that went bankrupt overnight. My dad had passed away, and I was running his construction business. Everything went haywire. I had the responsibility of my mother, two school-going kids, and my wife. It was just too much for me to manage in an unstable economy. After depleting all the savings, I had to make the tough decision to move out. After trying my luck in various Asian countries, I finally set up my business in Dubai. It was a tough phase, but the drive to provide a good lifestyle for my family pushed me through all the difficulties. After leaving Texas, I wasn't home for more than a year until I was able to set foot on my new venture. I used to visit home every 5 to 6 months or so. I wanted to bring my family here, but Mona and the children didn't want their school curriculum to be interrupted. Last year, my youngest daughter completed college and landed a job at her sister's company. Before she left home, I planned my vacation to spend some time with her. During that visit, I asked Mona to shift with me now that both children had moved out. She denied it, saying my mom would be left alone. I suggested that mom could also join us, but they both didn't like the idea of leaving their hometown. They didn't want to shift to a new country with such a different culture. They were right in their own way. Middle Eastern culture is very different from ours. So I didn't insist further. During my last visit home, I told Mona that I was planning to wrap up things in Dubai and move back to Texas. I thought this would be exciting news for her, but her reaction was far from happy. I asked her if she didn't want us to live together. She said, "No, I'm happy. It's just that you worked so hard to establish yourself there. Why do you want to leave everything and come back?" She was right to some extent. Shutting down things that took so much sacrifice to build wasn't easy and might not be a good decision. But I had been living away for 13 years, and now that my major responsibility, children's education, was over, I wanted to move back to my hometown, my comfort space. I assured her that I would take care of our finances the way I had been doing. I was planning to set up something in Texas now that the country's economy had bounced back. Still, she was not convinced. That was a red flag for me, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. The next morning, my mom visited out of the blue. She said I shouldn't be making this hasty decision to move back. I hadn't told her or anyone else about my plan, so it was Mona who must have told her. I was shocked. Mona pushing back on this could be considered a red flag, but when my mom also expressed a similar concern, I went into self-doubt. I thought maybe I was making the wrong decision. However, this was bothering me. Why didn't my wife want to live with me? The reasoning made sense, but I was heartbroken at how emotionally distant Mona had become. This feeling consumed me so much that after returning from home, I limited my calls and texts with her. I thought she would notice and ask me about it, but she didn't care to ask if everything was fine. There were days when I didn't call her, and she also didn't contact me. Days grew into weeks, and now her communication is only transactional. All this indicated one thing: she no longer needed me. Last month, I confronted her. I asked if she didn't love me anymore. She brushed it off, saying I was just overthinking. She said she was just busy taking care of the house and my mom, who had grown fragile with age. I didn't know how to reply. It's not usual to find your wife bonding so well with her mother-in-law and taking care of her. I was grateful to Mona for being so kind to my mom. My uneasiness grew with each passing day. I couldn't wrap my head around why my wife would not want to be with me. We already have our own house. Our major responsibilities are over, and I was assuring her that our lifestyle wouldn't be compromised. So why didn't she want me home? It didn't make sense. Yes, the same thought popped into my head too. Maybe she had someone better. But how do I find out the truth? She had shown no other red flags until now. She had been a great mother, raising the children bravely in my absence. It's not easy, and she had fulfilled all her roles so elegantly. Sometimes I feel bad for suspecting her, but you know how long distance works. Any advice on how to find this out? Your situation is like trying to understand why people still use fax machines. It's outdated, complicated, and no one really knows what's going on. I mean, 13 years is a long time to be away from home. It sounds like she's actually gotten used to life without you. It's become her new normal. Honestly, it wouldn't be unheard of for someone to seek intimacy outside of a relationship. All that said, if she was cheating, your absence doesn't excuse it. Update 1. Thanks for all the advice. I was glad to connect with those who shared their stories of betrayal. It was quite a lesson to learn. Mona had been cheating on me, and my mother knew about it all this while but didn't. I don't know what I did to deserve this fate. Posting my story here and connecting with you all, one thing was sure: I could not let this slide. I planned a surprise trip home. I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my mom. As I entered my house, I dreaded bumping into Mona with her affair partner. It's kind of funny, but after reading so many stories of cheating wives with deployed husbands, this is what came to my mind. Gladly, nothing of that sort happened. Mona was in the kitchen when I entered the house using the spare key. Yes, she was shocked to see me. I carried a bouquet with me to cover it up as a surprise. She was obviously surprised but also suspicious of my sudden appearance. She bombarded me with questions about my show up. I told her I had light work that month, so I decided to come home. She forced a smile and pretended to be happy, but it looked evidently fake. I spent the next few weeks digging out the truth. I did everything a person in my situation would do, not too proud of some of it, but I felt I had no choice. I snooped through her phone, eavesdropped on her conversations, and planted a GPS on her car to follow her around town. All this provided information in bits and pieces, giving me a clearer picture of what was happening in my absence back home. It came out that she had been seeing someone for the last 8 years. The day I arrived home, she was super guarded about her phone. Earlier, she used to clean all the evidence before I arrived. This time, she didn't get the opportunity. I tried snooping into her phone on the very first day, but didn't get a chance. When I was finally able to access it, I found nothing. She might have cleaned it up at the first chance. Her cheating came to light when I placed the GPS device inside her car and followed her. Initially, I didn't suspect anything when I found her entering a hardware store. But as I was waiting outside for her to return, I saw the owner pull down the shutter and close the shop. I felt dizzy seeing that. After a couple of hours, I saw her leaving the shop, and the owner opened the shutter after her car left the driveway. I wanted to go inside the shop to see the affair partner myself, but I stopped, thinking that maybe the affair partner would recognize me and ruin my plan. I waited for her to visit next so I could catch them in the act. She had a pattern of stepping outside in the afternoon on some days. I mindlessly followed her everywhere. Finally, yesterday, she went to meet my mom. Usually, on those days, I used to back off and not follow her further, which is why it took me so long to catch her. But yesterday, I kept waiting and found them leaving the house together. I didn't find it suspicious at all. I thought they were heading for shopping or something else. I didn't want to follow them, but something in me did anyway. They stopped their car at the hardware store, and my heart sank. The affair partner came out and greeted them both. My mom and Mona got out of the car, and they entered the shop together. I couldn't believe it. I stood outside the shop for several minutes until I got the courage to walk inside. I was ready to confront them, but before I could get in, my mom and Mona came out holding hands with the partner. My mom gave Mona a hug, and they drove off together. Update 2. I stood frozen for a moment, my mind racing. The reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. My mother, the person I trusted to have my back, was in on this betrayal all along. The image of Mona and her lover holding hands was seared into my memory. It felt surreal, like a scene from a movie, but it was my life. I quickly got back in my car, heart pounding. I needed to process what I had just witnessed. The betrayal felt overwhelming, and I was filled with a mix of rage and sadness. How could they do this to me? How could my mother support my wife in such a cruel deception? For the next few days, I did a lot of soul searching. I didn't confront Mona or my mom immediately. I wanted to gather my thoughts and plan my next steps carefully. The betrayal was deep, and I felt like I had lost two important people in my life. I thought about my children. What would they think if they knew? I didn't want to drag them into this chaos, but I also felt like they deserved to know the truth about their mother. After several sleepless nights, I finally decided to confront Mona. I wanted her to know that I knew everything, but I wanted to do it in a way that would allow me to keep my dignity intact. I arranged a meeting at a neutral place, a cafe where we had once celebrated anniversaries and happy moments. When I arrived, I saw her sitting there looking beautiful as always, but the sight of her only fueled my anger. I took a deep breath. She greeted me with a smile which quickly faded when she noticed the serious look on my face. "Mona, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, concern etched on her features. "I didn't waste any time. I saw you with him," I stated flatly. Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she might deny it. But instead, I didn't want you to find out like this," she finally said, her voice shaky. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice? 8 years, Mona, 8 years of betrayal," I shot back, my emotions spilling over. "And my own mother supported you." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I felt so alone when you left for Dubai. I tried to wait for you, but I got tired. I didn't know how to tell you. Tell me what? That you found someone else while I was working my ass off to provide for our family, that you were happy to have my mom on your side while betraying me." I was livid. She looked defeated. "I was wrong, and I know that. I'm sorry. I didn't want it to go this far, but it did. I didn't know how to handle everything alone." "Handle what? You had a choice, Mona. You could have talked to me instead. You chose to cheat and deceive," I said, feeling the weight of betrayal heavy on my chest. We sat in silence for a moment, the air thick with tension. I felt a mix of sadness and anger, but mostly I felt betrayed. I had always thought that we would work through any problem together, yet she had chosen a different path. "I want a divorce," I finally said, my voice resolute. Her eyes widened in shock. "You don't mean that we can fix this? We can try counseling, anything. Please don't say that. I've given you more chances than I should have. This isn't something we can fix. I need to think about my future, and I can't do that while living a lie," I replied. As we left the cafe, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with sorrow. The decision was made, but the road ahead would be difficult. I had to think about how to break the news to my children and deal with the fallout from my mother. In the following days, I reached out to a lawyer to start the divorce process. I also sought support from friends who had been through similar situations. I needed people around me who understood the pain of betrayal. As I navigated this tumultuous period, I realized that while I was losing a relationship I had invested so much in, I was also gaining a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to move forward. Final update. After a difficult few months of navigating the divorce process, I found a sense of clarity. I focused on rebuilding my life. The divorce was finalized, and while it was painful, it was also liberating. Mona tried to reach out for reconciliation, but I stood firm. I realized that our relationship had fundamentally changed, and I deserved better. My daughters, though initially shocked by the revelations, supported my decision and appreciated my honesty. In the months that followed, I started to travel more, exploring different cultures and rediscovering myself. I found joy in new experiences and met people who inspired me. Though the scars of betrayal remained, I chose to focus on healing and growth. As I settled into this new chapter, I embraced a life filled with possibilities. I learned that sometimes moving on means letting go of the past, no matter how painful it may be. I was finally ready to build a future that was truly my own. And with that, I closed the chapter on a painful but transformative part of my life, ready to face whatever came next with newfound strength and resilience. Thanks for tuning in to today's Reddit story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories. See you next time.